The clink of crystal glasses halted mid. My uncle's voice split the ballroom like a lightning crack. She's the reason our family's reputation is in ruins. Heads whipped around, stares pinned me in place, some curious, some contemptuous, most entertained. Before we go further, drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. And when you're done with this video, let me know. What would you have done in my shoes? I stood motionless in my sapphire silk gown, the very one my aunt once ridiculed, saying it looked like cheap wrapping paper. My champagne flute quivered in my fingers as two uniformed security guards started moving toward me, steps in perfect sync. Two men in matching suits, calm, cold, confident. They'd clearly rehearsed this moment with him. "Get her out of here," Uncle Frank ordered, lips pressed tight. He flicked his hand as though brushing lint off his tailored tux. "This event is for true Whitman family members, not imposters humiliating us in public." The gala fell silent, except for a hiss of whispers, each word a lash of shame. My cousin Tyler murmured something in his girlfriend's ear. My Aunt Denise smirked behind her wine glass, and my mother? She looked away. Not ashamed, not regretful, merely intrigued. Once again, I was alone. Security reached for my arm, but I jerked it back. There was no way I'd let them drag me out like some scandalous sideshow. If they wanted drama, I'd give them a performance, but not the one they expected. I took a deliberate step backward, lifted my chin, and before spinning toward the towering double doors, I announced, loud and steady, "Then I suppose you'll really hate who's about to arrive." Gasps rippled through the ballroom. One of the doors swung open, and there he was, 6'3", navy velvet jacket, crisp white shirt, a gaze so commanding it swallowed the room whole. The cufflinks glinting at his wrists could pay for my uncle's summer house. My husband, my secret, until now, strode forward with the ease of a man born to power. Nathan Carter, billionaire investor, media mogul. The same man Uncle Frank once tried, and failed, to lure into a business deal 3 years ago. The man they'd all dismissed as untouchable. The man no one knew was mine. And the instant he reached my side, Nathan took my hand and pressed a slow kiss to my knuckles, never breaking eye contact with my uncle. That's when color drained from every face in the room. Silence thundered through the ballroom as if someone had fired a gun into the ceiling. Uncle Frank didn't blink. His mouth twitched open, clenched shut, then gaped again, like he couldn't decide whether this was reality or a nightmare. Nathan turned to the crowd, offered a cool, courteous nod, then dipped his head toward me and murmured into my ear, loud enough for Frank to hear. "Oh, is this where we smile or set the place on fire?" I didn't answer. I didn't have to. The whispers became murmurs. The murmurs became a low, rippling rumble. Chairs scraped across the parquet floor as people twisted in their seats for a better view. Some stood outright. The Carter name didn't merely carry weight, it commanded the entire atmosphere. "What is happening?" Aunt Denise sputtered, instantly regretting opening her mouth. Nathan smiled, a sharp, knowing smile. "My wife and I were about to head home, but it seems we've walked into some sort of family festivity. Or was it meant to be an ambush?" The word wife cracked through the ballroom like a whip. My cousin Tyler coughed champagne into his napkin. My mother rose shakily to her feet, her mind clearly scrambling to process what she'd just heard. And Uncle Frank, his voice shot out, raw and furious. "You married him?" he barked, eyes slashing toward me. "Behind our backs, without our approval? After everything we've sacrificed for you?" I pivoted slowly to face him. "You mean, after all those years you treated me like a pawn? Calling me your burden? The embarrassment, who'd never measure up for the society pages?" His eyes narrowed into vicious slits. "You betrayed us." "No," I said, stepping closer. "I survived you." Nathan's arm slipped around my waist, firm but controlled. But beneath his elegant calm, I could sense the fury barely held in check. He had always hated how they spoke to me, even before he knew the whole story. And I still hadn't told him everything. Not yet. Because I'd been afraid he'd burn it all down. But now, maybe that's exactly what I wanted. I'd like to say a few words, Nathan announced smoothly, plucking a microphone from the jazz band's stand. If our host doesn't object. Frank tried to interject, but another voice cut him off. The governor, a longtime Carter ally and Nathan's personal friend. Actually, the governor said, folding his arms, I'd love to hear what Nathan has to say. The Carter name carries weight in this state. Uncle Frank blanched, white as linen. Nathan cleared his throat, voice echoing through the stunned ballroom. I'll keep it brief. I just wanted to thank the family who raised the woman I love for teaching her precisely how not to treat people. For every time you tried to silence her, you only gave her more room to grow stronger. For every cruel word, she forged armor. And now, you're all about to learn what it costs to underestimate a woman who never needed your approval in the first place. Nathan turned toward me. Come on, we've got a plane to catch. I gave a single nod, but before leaving, I turned back for one final look. You all spent years telling me I was worthless, that I'd never become anything, that no one would ever love me unless I fixed every single thing you claimed was wrong with me. Well, the only thing that was ever wrong with me was believing you. And we walked out, and I swear, you could have heard a pin drop on the marble floor. But that wasn't revenge. Not even close. That was merely the opening act. Outside, a sleek Lincoln idled by the curb, engine rumbling low. Nathan opened the door for me, like he always did, unbothered if the entire city saw him doing it. I slid into the back seat, pulse hammering with leftover adrenaline. The door shut behind me with a quiet, final click. Silence hung in the car until Nathan finally asked, You okay? I dipped my head once. No, I admitted softly. But I will be. He studied my face for a few seconds, then reached into the console and pulled out a small navy velvet box. He handed it to me. Open it. Inside sat a gleaming silver key. But it was the label that made my breath catch. It read, Whitman Ventures CEO Isabella Whitman. My eyes flew to his. You changed the name on the building? I changed the ownership, Nathan said evenly. To you. My chest tightened. Why now? He leaned back against the leather seat. Because they need to understand, you didn't just marry into power. You are the power. He exhaled slowly. I was willing to wait, but they tried to humiliate you in public, and I don't let that go unanswered. My hands trembled, not from the power itself, but because, for the first time, someone believed in me more fiercely than I'd ever believed in myself. Just then, my phone buzzed. A message popped up. From my younger cousin Rachel. Are you happy now? You've humiliated the whole family. Uncle Frank is furious. Another message followed moments later. You always ruin everything. I didn't bother replying. As the truth was, I hadn't even started yet. 2 days later, in downtown Chicago, the Carter boardroom smelled of polished glass, white orchids, and something sharper. Justice. I sat at the head of the table, the silver key now pinned to the lapel of my custom-tailored blazer. They called me the family disgrace until the night I walked into the gala and revealed the billionaire who just made me the CEO of his empire. Hit subscribe if you believe revenge is a dish best served in diamonds. The boardroom's fluorescent lights glinted off polished glass as a dozen pairs of eyes locked onto me. These weren't polite yes men. They were sharks circling blood in the water. But Nathan had already carved out my path forward. This is the proposal, I said evenly, placing a slim leather folder on the conference table. We're going to acquire the pending real estate portfolio from Whitman Holdings. A subtle wave of surprise passed across several faces. It's massively undervalued, I continued, and Uncle Frank is desperate to offload it before the fiscal quarter closes. One gray-haired director lifted a skeptical eyebrow, and the catch? He allowed a small, cool smile. We're not going to tell them who's buying. I watched the realization unfurl across their expressions like dominoes toppling. You're going after your own family's assets? Someone finally asked. No, I replied, voice calm as glass. I'm simply reclaiming what never should have been theirs to control. Nathan leaned forward beside me, fingers steepled. You've all got your orders, let's go shake their tree. A week later, back at the Whitman mansion. I wasn't there, but I could see it as vividly as if I were standing in the study myself. Uncle Frank storming through mahogany doors, snatching a letter off his desk, tearing it open to read the message from his lawyer. The Whitman family's most lucrative downtown property had just been quietly purchased by a shell company funded by Carter Investments. I imagined the way his face must have flushed crimson, then drained pale as milk, then contorted in fury. But what he didn't know? That property wasn't destined for profit. It was slated for a full renovation into a free public resource center, bearing my name. No investors, no dividends. Just a monument, a statement, proof that I could build good things without them, and that they couldn't stop me. I wasn't playing by their rules anymore. I was writing my own. But every revenge story has a plot twist. Mine arrived the night I discovered what Rachel had done. It began with a voicemail. Hey Isabella, it's Aunt Denise. I hate to be involved, but your cousin Rachel's been talking to a reporter. About you. About your marriage. About secrets she claims to know. Be careful. The call ended in a click of silence. For the first time in days, my fingers turned cold. I'd underestimated Rachel. She wasn't merely jealous. She was lethal. And I had just declared war. I always suspected Rachel was bitter, but I never thought she'd sell me out to tabloids for a fleeting moment in the spotlight. 2 days after Aunt Denise's call, my inbox erupted. Not with clients or business deals, but with screenshots, links, screaming tabloid headlines. Secret marriage scandal, billionaire's wife exposed as the black sheep of the Whitman dynasty. Isabella Whitman schemed her way to the top. Insiders allege her marriage is nothing but a corporate merger. They'd splashed the headlines across every gossip site. They even dug up photos from years ago. Pictures only Rachel could have pulled from private Whitman family cloud accounts. One showed me in my 20s, slumped and crying on the stone steps of our old estate, after Uncle Frank rejected my plea for a job at Whitman Holdings, told me I wasn't cut out for real business. Nathan found me standing alone in our penthouse kitchen, the glow of my phone screen lighting my face. One of my hands was clenched so tightly that my nails had left crescent moons in my palm. She used my worst moments, I whispered. Nathan stepped closer, his voice low and unshakable. Then, you show them your best. I lifted my gaze to him. She's trying to destroy my name. He nodded. So remind the world who gave it value in the first place. 2 days later, we made our move. We hadn't planned on attending the Chicago Leadership Summit's Gala fundraiser, but the instant I saw Rachel's name listed as a panelist for Women in Family Business, I turned to Nathan. Call your people. We arrived late, intentionally. Cameras were already rolling. The moderator was halfway through introducing Rachel as a visionary voice for family loyalty and business ethics. I nearly laughed out loud. Then, the double doors opened. Flashbulbs strobed in a frenzy. This time, there were no gasps. Only cheers. I stepped in, wearing the same sapphire gown Rachel once mocked me for even daring to try on, but now it was tailored to perfection, sleek, commanding. I didn't wait to be invited. I took the mic. Good evening, I said, steady as glass. I wasn't scheduled to speak tonight, but given some recent headlines, I thought I should remind a few people what the truth actually looks like. Rachel froze. She couldn't interrupt me. Not live on national TV. My name is Isabella Whitman. I was labeled a failure, a stain on my family's name. And when I finally stepped away to build my own future, they called me a traitor. I glanced at her, my voice softening. But here's what they won't admit. The only betrayal that ever mattered was me surviving theirs. I turned and walked off stage before the applause could even start. Let her sit in it, let her drown in it. Later that night, Nathan stood on the balcony of our penthouse, whiskey catching the city lights. I joined him, a mug of green tea warming my hands. You think she'll try again? I asked. He shrugged. Rachel doesn't know when to quit, but she also doesn't realize you've already won. I stayed quiet. Then Nathan turned to me, eyes glinting. There's something I never told you, he murmured. Once, I loaned her money. Before any of this, Nathan said. She claimed she needed it for college. He stared out at the skyline. Turned out she spent it on a vacation with her ex. I never asked her to pay it back, but I knew then she'd betray me one day. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. He set down his glass. Because I didn't want you hating her the way I did. You don't hate her? He shook his head. No. I just don't waste thought on people so far beneath you. But Rachel wasn't done. 3 nights later, a cyber attack hit Carter Investments. The trace led back to a midtown cafe. Rachel had used a borrowed laptop, accessing Wi-Fi linked to Nathan's financial servers. We stopped her in time, nothing was stolen. But it made one thing clear. Rachel wasn't just trying to humiliate me. She wanted to destroy Nathan too. And that was war. I didn't scream or post online. Rachel thrived on chaos, so I gave her clarity. We filed a restraining order quietly, pressed charges for digital theft silently. Then I planned my final move. In public. The stage was the Whitman Legacy Gala. Uncle Frank still hosted it, despite rumors swirling around the family. The ballroom glittered as always, marble floors glowing under crystal lights. But whispers pulsed through the room. Would I dare show up? I hadn't RSVP'd. I wasn't listed. But I had a key. I entered alone. No Nathan. Just me. The room hushed. Rachel stood beside Uncle Frank, wearing a venomous smile. Don't bother, Frank snapped. She's not on the guest list. I didn't blink. I handed a slim leather folder to the event manager. Read it, I said. He opened it, eyes widening. It's the deed, he stammered, to this entire venue. Correct, I said. I bought it last month, which makes me your host. A ripple of shock spread through the crowd. Rachel's smirk vanished. Uncle Frank tried to speak, but I cut him off. Save it. I'm not here to fight, I'm here to finish this. I faced the crowd, the same people who'd once cheered when I was thrown out. You said I was why this family failed, that I'd never be anything, and yet, here we are. I looked at Rachel. I never wanted a rival, only a sister. Then I turned to Uncle Frank. And I only ever wanted a family, not a dynasty built on fear. My voice trembled but held strong. I'm not asking for acceptance anymore, or forgiveness. I'm just letting you know. You never broke me. Then I stepped off stage. Nathan was waiting, wrapping me in his arms. I'm proud of you, he murmured. For surviving? I asked. No, he said, for winning. 2 months later, Rachel took a plea deal. No prison, just a fine, court-ordered therapy and a hollow apology read on a podcast nobody heard. Uncle Frank's company fell under investigation for fraud. Not tied to me, but poetic all the same. As for me, I launched a scholarship for women cast aside by their families. The first award went to a quiet girl who reminded me of who I'd once been. Visible, but not for long. If you've ever felt invisible, judged, or betrayed, I'd love to hear your story. Drop me a comment below and tell me how you fought back, or how you're planning to. Your words might be the spark someone else needs. And if you're with me, hit like and subscribe.